New World is an absolute disaster, and it's getting worse every single day. Whether you put a thumbs up or a thumbs down, it means nothing because engagement does the exact same thing, no matter what type it is, so thanks for that. This video is going to be completely one-sided and very critical. I'll be talking about the largest problems with New World because there are too many of them right now, and they are far too massive to be ignored. Some of these problems are well known, some aren't. Some have top-voted Reddit posts, and some don't. Some of them will get fixed and some ignored, but ultimately this will be half catharsis and half awareness campaign, if you will, because I'm at the end of my rope with this game. Having waited for it patiently through multiple delays, tested and submitted as much feedback as I possibly could during pre-release phases, most of which was obviously either ignored or not prioritized and got lost in the crowd, and rallied a community behind the title for the sake of social gameplay, I find myself using the channel for something less common but much more inflammatory, which is, simply put, me venting about something that I care for that is utterly and completely fucked right now. New World is a botched game. Will it stay that way? I have absolutely no idea, but what it is right now is a failed product and a horrible experience. This might seem completely out of touch when compared to how many other creators are discussing the title right now, and it might even seem like a sharp turn from my own thoughts on the game during preview phases, and even the closed beta. And it might seem that way because, in essence, it's kind of true. This game, as I discussed in my official review, which is up on the channel by the way, has two distinct faces, but I wasn't even aware at that point in time while I made that review just how bad it really was. On the one hand, there's a great experience that will probably last 100 or more hours if the game clicks for you, and you can have it for no monthly fee whatsoever and a simple $40 box price. That's a good deal if you get even, 80 hours of fun, because pound for pound, the earlier parts of this game and the progression up until maybe a little over halfway through various different crafting professions and basic level 60 content, pound for pound, it's very fun. But I'm not here to talk about the fun parts and try to soothe the honeymoon phase doe-eyed casuals who still haven't made it past level 20. You are probably the most important demographic in gaming right now, and that level of self-discipline will actually help your overall experience in this game by slowing down the ticking time bomb. But when that thing goes off, you will realize that this game is falling off a cliff and was completely unfit to be released. Let's start with what was a problem, and still is, before moving to the new and exponentially worse things that have started to crop up. For starters, the drop rates are completely botched. This has been an issue since long before release day, and it wasn't changed. Drop rates for certain rare resources that are needed in many different crafting recipes either have a misplaced decimal point or they're sadistic. There are specific resources that simply don't show up on the global market, can be farmed for dozens of hours without getting a single one at all, and that's perfectly fine if scarcity is the actual goal, but these are tier 3 and tier 4 resources, while the tier 5 versions, hypothetically even more rare, or should be, are dropping at a frequency that is orders of magnitude greater, thereby totally undermining the entire economic curve of certain professions. Want to craft tier 4 legendary items? You probably just can't do it. Not because you aren't skilled enough, not because you don't know where to look for those components, but because those components just don't exist on your server. I've heard rumors that some of these items are starting to drop, that people have 1 or 2 here and there, but when recipes require 5, 10, even 20 of those items, and you only see one on the entire server every few days, that's a broken system, and it's going to get worse as more players level into a bracket where they become affected by it. Next up is expeditions. This requires me to explain how they work for those that have not progressed far enough yet. Expeditions are an integral part of the PvE experience. I would actually assert that they are a massive chunk of what you will be doing both mid and endgame, because they have unique bosses, mechanics, and locations, while also dropping good gear and helping break up the monotony of open world boss farming. Trust me, I'll cover that one soon, because it's an absolute joke. Expeditions require tuning orbs, which are a sort of key to the dungeon. The problem? Tuning orbs are bind-on pickup items that require high crafting skills to make. That means you need to have someone physically in your group in order to do them who has trained those particular skills, like stone cutting for example. Seems fine so far, but wait until you learn that some of the components for those tuning orbs come from corrupted breaches. Well, corrupted breaches are another large chunk of the endgame, so that makes sense. And you need the corrupted chunks or fragments or whatever they are, the top tier ones, which are also bind on pickup. Well, wait a second, because the corruption portals are broken right now and can't be closed because nearly every single player in the game has an Azoth staff glitch that locks them out of both the 55 and 65 level variant types. Well, that's not good, because the corruption breaches and PvE expeditions are one of the main sources of endgame gear. Combined, I would argue they're actually the majority of endgame content, and they don't work, leading to a complete stagnation in available activities post level 60. Keep in mind, like or dislike, you benefit me and this video, but what's even more important is realizing that this criticism is not a function of me complaining that the content doesn't exist. It's me claiming that the content does exist and is there, but it just doesn't fucking work. The PvE and crafting is broken, and when added to an economy that has no actual basis in financial reason or logic, it creates a gameplay environment that is incredibly frustrating. Speaking of economic balance here, having heard from an ex-member of mine who now runs with a different company on the same server, the taxation framework in New World is bleeding companies dry. The taxation frequency and values are contributing to a downward spiral where companies can't afford to participate in certain systems because the gold just isn't there. And this problem was nowhere to be seen at launch and was impossible to really gather feedback on pre-release because it takes time to understand how those values will interact. Oh, also, the other aspect of mid/endgame PvE, which is invasions, that's gatekept by companies to such an extreme degree, using the systems Amazon has deliberately designed, it's unlikely that most people will ever even get to participate. I say this as someone who has and can participate in many different invasions, which are a fun aspect of the game with decent rewards, and I also say it as someone who enjoys that activity and wants more people to get to play it. One of the best parts of Endgame, the last pillar standing that isn't unplayable and broken like expeditions and corruption breaches, literally, is gate-kept away from most players. So PvE is completely botched in the endgame because two of the main systems, the biggest systems, in their entirety just don't work, and the third is denied for most players. But it gets exponentially worse because that's only PvE. For PvP, I find it hard to even express just how dysfunctional and broken the game really is, but I'll do my best here. In the background right now is a clip of the PvP experience when teams decide to exploit. I've talked about it before, and it's still a thing. Well, what about Amazon's response to this? Their response? I don't know how the hell this ended up being a thing, but their response was to stealth nerf all AoE abilities, which completely gutted their ability to heal or do damage, but didn't solve the lag problem. Instead of having AoE abilities stack, they now conflict. That means multiple healers are just overriding each other, and Ice Gauntlet users are just canceling each other's abilities. And it's not the strongest instance of the ability, or the greatest value or damage number, it's just whatever most recent ability was cast, which means in a 50 versus 50 war, you are probably never going to get reasonable damage again with most AoE abilities. But the lag exploit, the thing this was designed to apparently cure, there are still ways to do it. Absolutely genius. However, that's nothing compared to what comes next. It turns out, if you shrink your game down to a window and then click on it while dragging it around the screen, you become invulnerable. You literally cannot die while you drag the window around. Footage in the background right now on video. And that might be hilarious and stupid, but the problem is rooted so much deeper it should be immediately alarming to everyone. You don't just become invincible, you actually physically lock in place no matter what. For instance, if you are falling, you just stop and float there, midair. This can go on indefinitely, and the reason it's so ridiculous is because it indicates that client-side authority is absolute. The initially discovered lag exploit, that was client-side too, because you can actually still do things on your own screen, but actions aren't executing for other people. That kind of client-side control is horrifying because it means there is an immeasurable amount of influence that can be exerted over the game by individual players a million separate ways. The invincibility, that's just the start. There's more to come. Mark my words, people will, if they haven't already, discover duping glitches, which absolutely existed pre-release and probably still exist right now and are happening. We'll see, they'll blow up eventually. Further PvP exploitation, speed hacks, and more, because changing values or manipulating the interface client side is extremely easy to do. Whenever a territory flips, whenever a war is won or lost, you have no idea if it was legitimate or not. It probably wasn't, to be real, and that is a central pillar of the game. Territory control affects taxation, economy potential, Azoth prices in a world where Azoth is already a frustrating mechanic by itself, and more. When the PvP system is totally and completely undermined to a degree where it cannot be considered even functional and needs to be immediately disabled, how can we rightly sit here and say anything other than the game isn't ready? Because that's all I can really say. I didn't even go deeper on dozens of other problems, like how numerical values are almost all universally wrong. We're in Anthem territory here. No joke at all, we actually are in Anthem territory. The light armor 20% damage boost, it's not 20%, it's between 7 and 13%. The fire staff abilities like Rune of Helios, they aren't 30%, they're 22%, as per one user's testing on Reddit. And critical hits only do 30% increased damage instead of 60% with light armor as opposed to heavy, because it's completely broken and nonsensical. Having 300 intelligence for a fire staff? Broken, doesn't provide what it should. Having over 250 strength? broken, slows down animation time instead of speeding up stamina regen, and some servers are jumping forward in their own internal clock time, leading to like 15 downgrades for territories all at once, then the server crashes, and I don't even have the lung capacity to describe just how many things are broken in this game. Final point, the community in New World is absolute garbage. That's a broad strokes generalization, so let me elaborate a bit while I farm those dislikes. Not every company is made up of awful people, or exploit-driven losers, but the game intrinsically rewards, incentivizes, and caters to those who are the bottom of the social barrel. Most companies are fine, but unless you want to drag their window around, right, all around the screen for 30 minutes to win a war, unless that's your preferred tactic, or spam AoE abilities to glitch out the entire battle and fight statues with client-side lag, they are going to lose against whatever company decides to do it. In my review, I anecdotally discussed how one company on our particular server, the Enclave, was doing this exact type of thing, and little did I know they are actually very well known in other games for similar reasons. Their leader, Buzzcut Psycho, also known as Horrigan previously, has a bit of a track record in World of Warcraft. Their group was actually banned, I believe, for attracting the attention of a US congressman because of their propensity to do things like roleplay as KKK members. Their group goes all the way back to PlanetSide and PlanetSide 2, where they trolled an in-game funeral for a developer, I think it was, saying things like, "We're glad he's dead." And even my simple mention of them in a review resulted in their members joining our Discord server to spam images of minorities being hanged, and videos that contained similar material. I didn't even watch those videos. We filed proper reports to Discord, the whole 9 yards, and we got rid of them, banned them from the server, but I say this with the utmost sincerity. The Enclave, supported by YouTubers like Swole Benji, and led by people like Buzzcut Psycho, are the exact type of disgusting person that makes it possible for gaming media to demonize gamers at large. People like them make it feasible to brand massive chunks of the gaming community as Nazis and alt-right bigots, because the things that they say and do, the actions they take, the morals they hold, it's incredibly hard to look at the full picture in context and say anything other than, yeah, they are pretty fucking awful people. The rest of it, I've said before, companies are still mass reporting to get key players banned before wars, but in true New World community fashion, they are also expanding that tactic because why not get someone banned for stealing your resource node? You can mass report for chat abuse and it works, so why not do it? People are getting banned for anything, really, because all it takes is a group of coordinated assholes to mass report and you're gone for 24 hours. And the appeal takes more than 24 hours, so you just get temporarily banned for whatever the bigger group of dipshits thinks you should be banned for. It's a disaster. The game is a disaster. The balancing is a disaster. The PvE is half broken, and by broken I mean it literally doesn't function, blocking out huge swaths of the content that actually does exist, so it's kind of even worse when you think about it. The PvP is botched, completely destroyed by exploits and bugs. Client-side control makes it unbelievably easy to cheat. People are getting each other banned for anything under the sun, and it's almost none of it is legitimate. The calculations are broken, and if you need one more example of what this game is right now, it's in the background. That is the state of New World. You can't do portals or expeditions. I mean, you can very infrequently, but it's really incredibly hard to actually get someone who has one of those orbs and then do it. Like, they can't actually be done in the way they're intended to be done. The wars are broken. The economy is fucked up. So what do people do? They spam farm world bosses where you just frantically try to get kill credit or snag a hit on the boss as you zerg the content with no skill, no actual satisfaction, and you do all of it to participate in secondary systems that are, you guessed it, broken. New World is a botched game at this particular point in time. It's fun for a while, and if you plan to play it in the most casual sense, sure. But I decided that today I was going to use the channel to vent and make myself feel better, because I truly wanted this game to be great. I truly wanted to enjoy this game as my main title for weeks, months, even years, hopefully. And what it is right now sucks. It sucks really bad. How do they fix it? Disable PvP immediately and until it can be completely overhauled. Do something to get the corrupted portals functional again as soon as possible. That is the only priority at this point in time. And either tie the economies together or stop the ability for them to be viewed from everywhere. All it is right now is a tedious, broken, fiscally idiotic puzzle board where you try to get around and do things at separate locations while half the end game isn't even playable. And every single war is inherently a joke. I have no idea how people are defending this shit. I consider this the end of my New World coverage. I had initially planned to do a series of guides, but all I see now is the best DPS guide or the best crafting methods from other YouTubers. But these YouTubers are basing it all on numbers and bonuses that don't even compute correctly, thereby invalidating all of their content. What is the actual point here? I'll still play on my own a bit. I will certainly check out the patches. That much is definitely true. Because who knows, maybe they can pull off a miracle. But I'm done covering it because I have nothing positive to say anymore about this game. And I could have just shut my mouth and moved on without this video as well, that's true. But somehow I just kept getting annoyed, like holding in a sneeze. This was my sneeze. I'm done. Have a nice night.